The three books in the Bible which we are going to explore in the series are Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job, known as the wisdom literature, where all of them raises the same set of questions. What kind of world are we living in? What does it look like to live well in this world? How it would be good in life? To resolve the complication on how to live a good life, as a thought experiment, we will imagine each of these books as a person. Proverbs, an young teacher. Ecclesiastes, a sharp middle-aged critic. Job, an experienced man of life. In the series, we will start by meeting the book of Proverbs, the brilliant young teacher with incredible insights in work, relationship, sex, spirituality, integrity, and money. Chapter 1 through 9 are linked with the book of King Solomon. In 1 Kings chapter 3, we can see that Solomon had asked God for wisdom to lead Israel. Solomon became the wisest man in the ancient world. King Solomon was like the fountainhead of Israel's wisdom literature. While not all the material in this book is written by him personally, but he is where Israel's wisdom tradition began. The book of Proverbs is like the best friend anyone could have when you need to get a specific advice. The question that could arise are, what makes us so smart and unique? What is this force? Proverb can see things that are invisible to most of people and believes there is an invisible force in the universe that can guide people. It affects everything we do, just like the gravitational force of the earth. The introduction says that by reading the book of Proverbs, one can gain wisdom. For most of us, wisdom means knowledge. In Hebrew, it's chokhmah, an attribute of God used to create the world. And whenever people makes good decision, they are tapping in chokhmah. Whenever one makes bad decision, they are working against chokhmah. In the book of Exodus chapter 31, it was artists and craftsmen in Israel who were said to have chokhmah. The purpose of book of Proverbs is to help us to develop a set of practical skills. The fear of the Lord is the key idea one should have to live well in God's world. For example, in chapter 1 of Proverbs, we can see, the waywardness of the fool will destroy them, but the one who listens to wisdom live in security. It is like the moral law of the universe which leads us into the first main section of the book from chapter 1 through 9. We find here 10 speeches from a father to a son about how the son should listen to wisdom and cultivate the fear of Lord and live in love of virtue, integrity, and generosity, all of which leads to success and peace. The father also warns his son about folly and evil and stupid decisions that will breed selfishness and pride or leading to ruin and shame. The son should make the pursuit of wisdom and the fear of the Lord his highest goal in his life, and this way of thinking it forms the moral logic of this entire book. The speeches from the father also clues us into what biblical wisdom literature is and how it is different from other parts of the Bible. These books explore how to live well in God's world. Wisdom is not same as the law, like what Moses gave to Israel at Mount Sinai. Wisdom is not the same as prophecy and the divine speech given to God's people. Rather, wisdom literature has accumulated insight of God's people through the generation about how to live in a way that honors God and others. Through the book of Proverbs, these human words about wisdom are put together as God's word and the wisdom to his people. There are 4 poems from Lady Wisdom, poetically personified as a woman who calls out to humanity to pay attention and to seek her. Wisdom says that she is woven into the fabric of the universe, and so whenever you see people making wise decisions, they are relying on her. So you see someone being generous or having sexual integrity or upholding justice, they are drawing on wisdom. These Lady Wisdom poems are a creative poetic way of exploring the idea that we live in God's moral universe. Together with the two sets of speeches from the Father and the Lady Wisdom, they make a powerful claim about this book. We are not simply reading the book and the good advice, but God's invitation to learn wisdom from previous generations. Proverbs believes that anyone can access, interact, and utilize wisdom to make the life beautiful for yourself or for others, just like a designer. From Proverbs chapter 10 to 20, we find hundreds of ancient proverbs, and they apply wisdom in fear of the Lord to every life topic you could imagine. Family, work, neighborhood, friendship, sex, marriage, money, anger, forgiveness, alcohol, debt, and everything filtered through the values of the system of Proverbs chapters 1 to 9. Proverbs by nature are about probabilities. If you fear the Lord and you make wise decisions, things will likely go well for you. If you do not fear the Lord, you are foolish. Your life will likely not go so well. That is, if you show kohma, you possess kohma. When you put kohma to work, you develop the skill of making a good life. Well, that is often true, but not always, hence leading to the next point. The Proverbs are not promises and they are not formulas for success. You can see the reflections in Proverbs 10:27. The fear of the Lord prolongs your life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they won't turn from it. Yes, fearing God and being a moral person will most likely lead to a better, longer life. But in our world, there are no guarantees and a lot of things can often go wrong. Proverbs has one more important thing to consider. Kohma is not impersonal, it is an attribute of God Himself. And throughout the journey to become wise, one must begin with the Proverbs called the fear of the Lord, which is the healthy respect of God's definition of good and evil. True wisdom means learning the boundary line between good and evil and not crossing them. Now we will move forward to the two large collections of poems at the final section of this book. First poem from a man named Iype, who begins by acknowledging his own ignorance and folly and his great need for God's wisdom. Iype discovers that divine wisdom was given to him in the scriptures, which teach him how to live well. Iype put before us a model reader of the book of Proverbs, somebody who is always open to hear God's wisdom through the scriptures. The second poem of a man named Lemuel, a non-Israelite king, and he possessed the wisdom that was given to him by his mother to become a wise and just leader. Each line of this poem begins with a new letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the entire poem is about the woman with a noble character. It depicts a woman who lives according to the wisdom of Proverbs and stands like a model of someone who takes God's wisdom, then translates it into practical decisions on everyday life at work or home, in her family and in her community. The book of Proverbs opens with a word from a father to a son about listening to Lady Wisdom. The book closes by offering the word of mother to a son about woman who lives wisely. The book of Proverbs is for every person in every season of life. It is a guide for living wisely and well in God's good world, and that is what the book of Proverbs is all about. If you design life with these sayings, life is going to be good and provide with a big claim for health to bonds, prosperity and long rich life. And that is the book of Proverbs, the brilliant young teacher from the Wisdom series. See you in the next episode with the critic, the book of Ecclesiastes. And may the good God bless all of you and allow us to live in the true wisdom of God.